So it is Wednesday, November 24th, 2024. And tomorrow is Thanksgiving. And tomorrow will be the first Thanksgiving ever in my 53 years of life that I would not have had my mom. She passed away 7 months ago. And I tried not to think about that fact uh, and for the last several days and almost got away with it until a few minutes ago. And that's when I decided to make this video, because at first I wanted to talk about some of the grieving process, but it, it dawned on me to talk about something maybe not as big or as big, it depends on who you talk to, but about food. And it's a little more positive thing, because this, if you know me and you knew of my mom, we both enjoy food. We both love food. Food was always part of the central part of our relationship. And it's kind of funny coming from um, an immigrant family, is that you don't realize like how important food is in your culture. I'm Chinese, and you know, it wasn't until I had good friends and got to spend time with their families, I got to realize like, wow, like how central food was to my family, the Wongs, a Chinese first generation family. And this is something I grew to love and embrace about the relationship I had with my parents, because I really started, as I became an adult, I really started to appreciate how much food was a central part of our lives and how it enriched our culture. Our culture just in on the micro sense in our own family. So what this video is about is your relationship with food, and how you get from grieving my mom to your relationship with food is I've always had at least I like to think, a healthy relationship with food. Fortunately, I didn't have any negative associations with it, because I come from, I wouldn't say my dad was my dad was insanely strong. He didn't take care of himself, and he didn't never exercise, but he worked hard and was insanely strong. That's where I get my strength. My mom walked all the time, but neither of them exercised, but that's a cultural thing. It's a generational thing. And but that said, I'm lucky in my family that we are all fairly naturally fit. So I never had a negative relationship with food, in the sense that food would cause me to have a negative body image issue. And that said, what I want to talk about is your relationship with food, especially now that Thanksgiving is coming up. And if you're, most of my followers are in the United States, and so you understand and know how ingrained Thanksgiving is in our culture. It is a time for celebration, time for thanks, but more importantly, it's a time for gluttony. And this is the time when you have a lot of negative associations with food come up and wreak havoc, and it sets this tone and the pace of all these regrets because of the New York coming up. And everyone knows, at least in the United States, that everyone rushes to the gym on January 1 to undo everything that's going to happen from Thanksgiving until December 31st. Well, they'll go back January 2nd. And some of the diehard ones will go back on the 1st. But that said, trying to unpack what everyone's relationship with food, there's not enough time on YouTube. There's not enough server space for that. But what I'd like to start a discussion about is your relationship with food, and why, if it's positive or negative, and what got you to that relationship, that point of that relationship. And this is one of the things I've been a little bit more compassionate towards others about. And again, coming from a family that ate whatever we wanted to, usually fresh food. Though we, as a child of the 70s and 80s, processed food was a big part of our lives. But, growing up in a first generation Chinese household, like fresh vegetables and fresh meat, good quality meat, good quality just produce was just this constant thing you heard. And again, as I grew older, I really appreciated it. Sanxing, that's like one of the terms, Cantonese words for fresh, fresh and good. But again, like it's easy. It was easy for me to be judgmental of people like, oh, why do you have a negative association with food? Like, just stop eating. I don't. Why do you eat when you're stressed? But and I get that now as an older adult. I get how people have their negative relationships with food, and everyone has their own story. And again, not enough time to go into that. But if you're trying to get fit or trying to stay fit, you got to come to grips with your relationship with food and understand that pathology, understand why you eat what you eat, and why do you have positive or negative associations with those foods, and do they cause negative outcomes. And that's the thing about going to diet, like my diet. I don't, as I've touched base, if you can watch my video on diet, my perspectives on diet. But one of the things I don't believe is in restrictive diets, and more importantly, I believe in everything in moderation. Because when you have moderation, when you have a little bit of everything, you're not denying yourself anything, and you're able to kind of come to create a more positive relationship with food. And because you're able to eat something with like, oh my God, I can't eat that. I was like, oh, I can eat it, and I'm not going to balloon up, or I'm not going to feel crappy. But that's the thing about feeling crappy. And I mentioned that in my diet video, is that when you start to explore and understand your relationship with the food, and more importantly, how it makes you feel, that's huge. That is a game changer, because when you can make the association of a food that's not good for you, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad food. Like, I'm lactose intolerant. I should not be eating dairy products. Cheese wreaks havoc on my GI system. And I just know, like, I just assume not eat good cheese. Crappy cheese has hardly any lactose in it, so whatever. And good ice cream and stuff like that, I'll do that, and I'll indulge myself. Or Betsy loves great ice cream, and so I'll to keep my sanity and my wife's sanity, I'll have some. But I know which foods don't make me feel good, and actually physically don't make me feel good. So I already have a negative association with that, and that's a kind of a positive negative association, because that's going to make me feel bad. Just like eating a whole bunch of Doritos is going to make me feel bad. I'll still do it, but I know there'll be a price to pay if I go over a certain limit of eating that. And that's the thing, is when you have that, you're able to experiment with foods and put a causality with, like, what does that food make me feel like? Does drinking one glass of wine, is it okay for me? But when I do the 2 or 2.5, that's like, I feel like crap the next day. Or 6 glasses and 10 glasses, that kind of thing. And once you start to experiment and understand and be able to make these positive and negative associations, again, with positive ones, like, if I eat this, it makes me feel great. If I eat sweet potatoes as opposed to white rice, I feel a lot better, and so forth. So it goes both ways, and just trying to build and understand the relationships between food and how it makes you feel. And with that, it's like that, I think, is the biggest game changer for people. When you know that, at least you can file that away. Then the pathology stuff that can override that, the stress eating, and again, all kinds of stuff that I'm not even going to go into. But that's the thing, is finding your relationship with food. And the reason why I was thinking about Thanksgiving, and my mom I was just coming into the front door, and I was thinking, I just made a post on YouTube, a short about, I was doing a pegboard, and it's a body to weight thing. And I, half jokingly said, I'm sharing this now because tomorrow, Thanksgiving, I'll be way heavier, and I won't be able to do this. And I was, as I was thinking of that video that I just posted, I was coming through the front door, and I was thinking, like, what am I going to eat tomorrow? And this is what gave me the whole idea of, started made me think of my mom, but more importantly, my relationship with food is that I'm not going to binge tomorrow. And this is the thing. I've just been conditioned now. I'm not going to binge. I'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I already have a negative association with binge eating, and that it'll make me feel like just gross. And it'll make me not just the tryptophan in the turkey, but it'll make me just feel bloated and gross, and it's not worth it. And so, like, for me, that's just been conditioned to that. Sure, I'll have a little bit of everything. I want to try something. I want to try, like, I'm gonna smoke a ham. I want to have some of my ham, and have some of my sister's amazing turkey, and all kinds of stuff. But I'm not going to go there and just go shoveling food into my maw like I used to, because I've experimented with that. I know what that feels like when I just feel like, ah. And by 4, if I start eating at 1, by 4 o'clock, I just want to crawl in the backseat of the car and have Betsy drive me home. And so, like, that's what made me think. Let's come through the door and, like, man, am I really going to eat a lot and get heavier? It's like, no, I'm not, because I have that association of binge eating makes me feel like crap. And then again, just made me think of my mom, because, like, I would tend to eat a lot with my mom just because it was a time to bond with my mom. So, in conclusion, this rant, try to understand what your relationship is with food. Everyone's different. And when you start to understand that relationship and start to come to grips with it, and try to make these negative and positive associations with food and certain foods and food and volumes of food, it'll give you a better understanding of how you can stay fit, and making mindful choices, because that ultimately is what it is making a mindful choice, and knowing, like, that's going to make me feel crap. I shouldn't eat it. Don't eat it. But you should eat. But you want to eat it. Don't eat it. But you want to eat it. Don't eat it. And at a certain point, one of these two voices is going to win. And that's basically what happened to me, like, not binge eating anymore. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving if you're watching this now, and or I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.